that I can go to Second Amendment rallies at the steps of the Capitol in Austin with my AR strapped on my back, but I can't walk through a countryside with the same rifle without getting harassed. It's a little ironic.
Well, that's because you've got a bunch of gun owners together there, and the state police know the right, and it's been exercised at the Capitol so much, we've taken that hill. And that's why I commend what you did. In fact, tell people about your friend and what happened to him. And because listen, I'm going to start going out and openly bearing arms because it's a civil right, like black people going to a lunch counter. They're not allowed to. We have to exercise this or lose it.
Yeah. So the only reason that I was as aggressive as I was is because just a couple months ago, a staff sergeant, Nate Sampson, last year he was arrested for legally carrying a concealed weapon. And he explained, he quoted the law to him because at his unit in the Army, he is the CHL instructor for the battalion. So he teaches CHL law and firearms law in Texas to troops. And so he was illegal arrested, charged with a false crime. He quoted the law to the officers. They refused to look it up. He even said, look, I'll show you on my phone that I'm not violating the law. They refused to do that. For 10 months, this guy had to spend his hard-earned money. And, a staff sergeant doesn't make a lot of money in the Army. And he's married, and they just had a baby. So the last thing he needed to do was spend thousands of dollars to defend himself against a trumped-up charge. It took him 10.5 months, Alex, to get his guns back. And it cost him $3,000 at least. He also lost his leadership position in his unit in the Army because of this charge while everything was going on. And so I had that on fresh in my mind because I had just learned about Sergeant Sampson the prior month. And so when that happened to me and those officers began their assault, that's what I call it. I think I was assaulted. When he touched my rifle, he assaulted me.
Oh, it's clear when he's sitting there like he keeps pushing you onto the hood. I mean, it's disgusting.
Right. And I remembered that I am not going to let this continue to happen in Texas or anywhere around here. Somebody's got to finally stand up and put an end to this. And that's why I really fought it. I fought it because it's got to stop somewhere. And I'm at a point where I can afford to fight a fight like this and defend myself, both professionally as well as financially to a degree. Obviously,
well, that's my next point. You are literally, like in the old days, our champion out there, putting yourself there. Tell people, we're going to put it on screen, your website and your legal defense fund, because our viewers, they need to donate to this, because if we don't stand together and give our time, our treasure to people that are willing to be, walking point as you're doing, we're going to lose everything. Now is the time to spend our time, our energy, our money to pour it all out, because this is a collectivist takeover where they're trying to intimidate us, as the Attorney General has said, and blacken the name of all gun owners. And I just want to commend what you're doing, because standing up against this is so essential. We have to stand up to show the injustice. This is the new civil rights movement. This is the new fight for liberty. It's how our country was founded. It's how Texas was founded. And you were walking in those same footsteps. So tell us how we support you.
Well, my blog is called A Soldier's Perspective. I've had it since 2005. You can go to soldiersperspective.us and read where I write about why I chose the hard right over the easy wrong. There's a website set up. Indiegogo is the name of the fundraiser site. If you go to Indiegogo and type in Second Amendment Legal Defense Fund, you can donate there. You can PayPal me directly, CJ at soldiersperspective.us, and really, get the word out there, spread the video, talk to your police officers, talk to the chiefs of police, the sheriffs, and say, hey, what do you think about this? And find out what your local law enforcement thinks about how these police officers act, because that will tell you where they stand on this issue and whether or not they need to be removed from their office. We can't have, and Alex, I really do have to say, the majority of the Temple Police Department are great guys. I've had numerous encounters with Temple Police Department and no problems at all. This was a guy that I don't think is representative of the Temple Police Department. So I don't want to cast that wide net.
Sure, but he's an arrogant dumbass. I mean, even after he ran your ID and no criminal record, staff sergeant, combat vet, Bronze Stars, all this stuff, it's just and then to try to charge you with resisting, that's evil. I mean, that is evil to try to ruin your life. You'd lose your position. You'd be kicked out of the military. I mean, God knows what would happen. He wants to ruin your life just to prove he's right.
Yeah, and not only that, but when they knew that the resisting arrest charge wasn't going to stick, you know, they find this other charge of interfering with public duties. And my response to that is, if it's the police officer's job to illegally disarm citizens, charge me with interference every day, because I'm not going to stand for being illegally disarmed. Nobody should stand for being illegally disarmed. Yeah,
they committed the crime under common law, Bill of Rights, Constitution, Texas Constitution. They're in the wrong.
Right. Yeah. So that's what people can do. I mean, it's more about, you know, it's not so much about money. It's about education, and it starts in the elementary schools, and it continues all the way up through the college, and then, you know, these people become professors and they become politicians. And I mean, look, right now, Lautenberg is now talking about banning black powder, or making you go through background checks to get black powder. And I remember the British did that in 1774, and that didn't turn out so well for them.
Well, that's why I told Piers Morgan, who's now fleeing criminal charges. You know, they're arresting all his underlings in England. I mean, there seems to be no end to this arrogance, and they know. The Attorney General says, we're going to make them look bad. We're going to blame them for everything. And what do you think of every sitcom drama shows demonizing patriots? What do you think of the Homeland Security stuff saying Al-Qaeda is now not the threat? It's returning veterans, gun owners, Christians. I mean, I can't even believe this. It's like a Twilight Zone episode.
It is. And, you know, I've been on this belief for a few years now that we are now living in an extra constitutional society.
Well, I know you're active duty and can't say a lot about what's happening in the Army, but I mean, can you tell us what your colleagues are saying about this?
Well, the Army, I mean, to the degree that they're not doing anything, have been very supportive. Obviously, this is not a fight that the Army wants to get into right now, because it's you know, there's no right way to do it. So right now, the Army's not really doing anything. They haven't removed me from any positions. The day after the incident took place, I went and told my supervisors exactly what happened, because I didn't want anybody to get blindsided. And I live in Temple, so the likelihood that it was going to hit the blotter was low. But I did all the right things. I told them exactly what happened, and for my part, I've been very supported, in the sense that nobody's done anything to try and stop me.
Well, I'll say this about Temple. My family on the Grisham and Ayr side founded Temple. And I'm ashamed of the people in Temple if they don't go to the city council and everywhere else and have these officers removed, especially the one that was slamming you around and all this. These are despicable people, and I don't take pleasure attacking them, but they are despicable. I mean, it is what it is. They're despicable. They're rogue. They're out of control, and they should, like, quit and go move to San Francisco or move to New York City, and maybe they can be on Bloomberg's protection detail with all those disarmed slaves, because this is disgusting, and everyone should go to your blog and donate today. And I want you to civil rights lawsuit, you name it. You're right. We have to get aggressive with these people politically, because I'm so sick of gun owners being persecuted. I can't tell you, as a newsman, how many, no exaggeration, over the last 10 years, probably 100 articles I've seen every few weeks where there'll be some old vet, it's always an old vet, in a quasi-rural area, in the garage on a summer, cleaning their guns, and a neighbor comes by and calls the SWAT team, and they take them to jail, and they take their guns and say, he had 12